Okay, so it's October 23rd. It's Friday. Excuse me. I did a video in the front of the house by the brick wall. I couldn't get it up though because I didn't have enough time. Excuse me. Before I had to go pick Anthony up from school. I took him to the park, Anthony Diafrio 2012, so 2012. And while I was there, I was speaking to a girl who I found very interesting, by the way. I asked her what her nationality was, which normally I have not done this in my entire life because normally I don't care. But it just is now like maybe I should just document what's around and see what happens. So I asked her why. I said, Lucas said yesterday that he was born on Father's Day. So he said June 17th. I said, so it makes me like Gemini, right? And she's like, yeah, actually it does. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I asked her what made her think of that name. And she said, well, actually there was a soap opera that she watched. And I said, soap opera? I said, what soap opera, if you don't mind me asking? And she says, well, it's a telenovela. It was, and then I said, now wait, was it a soap opera or a telenovela? And she's like, well, isn't that what you say in English? And I was like, no, it is. But I was like, it's only spoken in Spanish? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, well that's the difference. Because usually the soap operas are in English. I find them incredibly dramatic and boring at this point. So she started laughing, and I said, "No, what's the name of it?" It turns out it's Lel clone CLON with no E. It's strictly in Spanish. She said it was something. It was a character named Leo, Lucas, and Jade. Jade. Interesting that they would only broadcast that in Espanol. I don't speak Spanish. Spracha, not of my whatever. So she said that, so I kind of laughed and I said, oh, so tell me about the thematic of it. Like, what was the storyline? Like, what did you connect with? And she said, well, it was one of the more interesting ones. She said, because it was talking of how this like scientist cloned his own body. I was like, kind of like a carbon copy. She's like, I guess. And I said, now, I said, that's very interesting. I said, because I just did a video on this before I got here about me having a conversation with my grandfather's generation and my grandfather specifically, where I was saying like how if the white part right here is like pretend skin, and then my arm is like the essence of what's inside, right? And then I pull it through when I pass away, when like the timing of the sun, the moon, the stars is correct. I mean, technically I could come back, right? Like through the sleeve, a different sleeve, and I could be reincarnated. I think that's the essence of reincarnation, is what they say. I said, now see, funny thing is, my grandfather's generation understood. Well, he understood completely. So did my Aunt Judy. I was like, my father was like, he did not understand whatsoever. I mean, it was very frustrating. I said, him and I don't get along. So then I said, so go ahead, tell me more about the show. And so she did, as best she could. And then let's think about this. I said, now what's your nationality? She said, Colombian. And so I said, have you ever been there? I told her that I had gone to Italy, whatever. Small chat for me. Actually, it's more like just verification of what's true and how many people do I have to tell on a checklist for the Spracha committee at Citadel Citrus to get one apple of I got one orange citrus, and I got his wife the rotten apple. Rot is the color red in English. And then when the apple is cut, and the air gets on the white part, the fleshy part, it turns brown. That's in my eye color. So I've got that light Russian topaz one color, yeah, that one, and then I've got like a very blue and like a white, yeah. Okay, I got a really interesting eye, but it's the apple of Mr. Orange Citadel Citrus's eye, is who I am, which takes me back to, these are not conversations that I had in the park, by the way. But let's just go here because it's just easy. Here we go. So I have Citadel. It's spelled two ways, one with an A, one with an E. Depends on whether you're on the Atlantic coast or whether you're on the Eastern European side of things. Western European, you're in that bucket as well. And then I have Citrus, which is the Citadel for which my actual appearance comes from. What is an indentured servant? Now, this is a very good question because if you break the word down, in Germano, Tedesco, in German, they talk about, or like Denmark, right? Okay, you have like a den, kind of like a clan, kind of like a grouping, right? For some esoteric purpose, existential purpose, that you need to group something together and not get mad at what's intrinsically inside that group. Great, okay, so here we are. These are like CDC terms. Yeah, they sure are. Okay, so you've got in, den, then you've got TU. Now, in anything but English, they have a word, actually more in the Romance languages, Latin, French, Spanish, they have the word TU, which means you, but like just you and I, just singular. And then, like in French, it's vous, V-O-U-S, which is like, it's just you, like me, you, and like my son. It's us, it's you, right? Okay, so, but, and then you have per se. So that's, you've got an existential grouping, but in Europe, they use the word TU, it's a singular grouping, a homogeneous, which means that it's all not hermaphrodite. Well, I suppose if you're talking sexually, it's not supposed to spread like cancer. You want cancer to stay localized. You don't want cancer spreading, right? Yeah, so if we're talking in this sense, like I like my things my way, like I'm whatever. So then you have, let's see, right, and then it goes back to the red, but then that goes back, right? So there's your indentured servants, and then the servants has the claw thing, because that goes back to a different thing, depending on which area of Citadel Citrus you're in. Then you have the dimensionals, which is the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. That is the continuation of the first, the second, and the third Reich. For all of you just catching on that the Nazis were not bad. Well, not all of them. Okay, so then you have, all right, so now you have an impact zone coming up. We broke it down to NYS being the state, NYC being the city, NYX being the actual genetic person and appearance. Underneath that, I put the star and is. That is goddess Isis. She has very large condor wings. She needs to be brought together. See that sigma at the bottom with the directional? Yeah, so she's born in this position in the east of the land, and then it's the water, and then it's another land mass. So she's born in the east, and she needs to be brought in the directional of west. But that gets confusing for some people because they call Europe the east and the land mass that I am on the west. So that's where this became an omega disaster to try to explain, which is why I try to break it down as simply as possible. But for the indentured servant, so as a goddess, because of what is going on in other places, I need to be brought to boarding school in Citadel Citrus. So usually they don't have citadels in the United States of America, but they do have some friends somewhere, I was told, still in the surrounding areas. It's just how to negotiate the linguistical prowess and find just the right Citadel representative from somewhere grew up better than what's going on in the constitutional section of human, without knocking off and making too much noise in the neural networking of batshit crazy humans, because that's what they are at the moment. Right, okay, so I need to get to Citadel Citrus. So he's an orange, I'm an apple, and humans are bananas. That's how we think of things. So we don't piss off whether I ate the bread, I turned the bread basket over, are they referring to my hat? Is that a color? Like, psh, he's an orange, she's an apple, and all humans are bananas. You would agree with that, especially if you had to go speak to them and tell them, like, listen, there's a few of us outside of your constitution. We just wanted to tell you that your country, we're trying to protect it for you because we're so frightened of just how stupid the interior people and government have become. We've talked to some of your leaders, humans, you call Americans. We've talked to some of your leaders and know for certain you're in trouble. The people we talk to in your local area, they don't believe it. They don't think you're prisoners of some war. The people outside, we know better. And we're trying to inform you without panicking you and without full occupation of like the scary gun and armies and whatnot to protect you further. Why is it that you have become so obsolete at protecting your own selves inside the interior of the United States of America that 42 years and we're still waiting on a phone call going, sure, come on over, just pick her up, no big deal, we'll let her go. Right, yeah, I don't know. I mean, how do you tell a country it's been... Like, we don't want your land. We don't really want to have to argue over treaties and money and government and shit. We just want one girl. She's in there in New York. Can we just have her? And like, we'll talk to you later. Right? Yeah, we got things to do in like big people places. And you have a lot of figuring out to do because you don't even speak right. Yeah, see, going back to the park conversation, I did speak to the girl in Colombia. I said, it's interesting. I said, could you paint me a picture? Because like when you don't speak English for a first language, you almost have to learn the topography of like the language and how to negotiate through it to paint a very accurate picture. And then you have comparison from where you came to what you were told and what it looks like to you of where you currently are if you're inside a constitutional state. And they are like the best people to try to learn what's really going on from. Because when I woke up, I was speaking to some of the constitutional idiots that were educated in the idiot system of the constitutions, the shit generation before I arrived. And they could not explain government to me whatsoever. In fact, Louis and Ada and Vicky and my grandfather argued a lot and in multiple linguistic prowesses and dialects over just how the system actually was and looked like to what they saw. So I found that very interesting. The girl did mention that her grandmother was in a district that was, she was in charge of shoes. She had two districts. One was named Cali, C-A-L-I, which goes to California. And also the tartan goes to the cauliflower. That's how that tartan, because all of you idiots in the Constitution of the shitheads, right, we have tartan Scottish elsewhere that know and are to be relied on so you all don't hurt yourselves while you're thinking that you're running something all by yourselves.